How it started.
How's it going?
The box.
We have learned a lot about box thinking.
The way things have been done for a really long time.
And fun fact,
Established norms.
We all do it.
Rituals that have kind of been passed down.
We love the comfortable.
It's Sunday morning.
We love the familiar.
People gather. Maybe they sit in rows.
Kind of the way it's always been. Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Truth Be Told. So this month we're talking about roots and reboot. And you may wonder, what does that even mean? Well, we're exploring the roots of Soul Evolution Collaborative, the what got us started, the vision, the excitement, the stepping into new possibilities, and how is it going? So all this month we're exploring how it started and how it's going. So this week we are talking about the box. Now, the box, what does that mean? Well, I don't want to give any of it away here in the monologue, but we are going to be exploring kind of what it means to step into possibilities, step into new ways of doing things, new ways of seeing things, and maybe some of the challenges that we experience along the way. Because, you know, it sounds easy to step out of the box, whatever that box is or whatever your box is, but sometimes that can be hard. And sometimes we find ourselves stumbling out of the box or falling out of the box or tripping over the box. So tonight we're going to explore the box, what that means, how it shows up, and how understanding the box and stepping out of it can open the door to new possibilities. So sit back and relax and enjoy episode 113 of Truth Be Told.
Today, we're going to talk about the box and how it started for SEC. When we talk about the box in the context of spiritual communities, we're referring to the set of assumptions and traditional practices that define kind of how things are done within community. For many spiritual communities, the box represents that established norm and rituals that have kind of been passed down through generations. Mostly, we're talking about the traditional Sunday morning model. It's Sunday morning, people gather, maybe they sit in rows or pews or chairs. There's probably some music, probably some prayer, a message from the front of the room, probably some more music. More or less, it's kind of the way things have been done for a really long time, and it has created the box. Now, this can be a good thing, as it provides a sense of continuity and tradition from within the community. And for many of the communities, doing this well is exactly what is needed. And then for others, this tradition can be maybe a limiting factor, as it can prevent the community at times from adapting to new ideas and changing circumstances. At times, it can seem like it keeps us stuck if we are stuck in the box. So before the pandemic, many spiritual communities were really comfortable in the box, sticking to this traditional way of doing things. They may have had a routine of in-person gatherings and may not really have embraced technology or a means of thinking that was outside the box. However, the world has changed tremendously, and the pandemic has really forced a lot of spiritual communities to rethink the way that they operate. It has highlighted the need for communities like this one to be more flexible and open to new ideas, and to be willing to step out of the box in order to better serve you. So this means being open to new ways of connecting, such as virtual and hybrid opportunities, and being willing to incorporate new technologies. It also means being open to new ideas and perspectives, and being willing to adapt to the changing needs of the community. And that is exactly the thought process that went into the creation of this community. As we began talking in the last two episodes about this topic, we questioned many of the things that had been done in the past. We questioned the box. We pulled things out of the box and kind of put them under the microscope. We analyzed basically everything we could before deciding what went back into the box and what we would leave. deciding to step out of the box. We would only take certain things with us in this attempt to evolve. And wow, did it really feel like we were leaping fully out of the box into this unknown, leaving behind the pre-pandemic traditional in-the-box Sunday morning spiritual community for what felt like the necessity of something new and out of the box. While you're here, remember to hit like, subscribe, maybe even drop a comment. We would love to hear from you, and thanks for watching.
So how's it going? We have learned a lot about box thinking along the way. And fun fact, we all do it. It's not good or bad, like we've pointed out, but instead it's this natural phenomenon in all aspects of life. We love the comfortable. I love the comfortable. We love the familiar and kind of the way it's always been. We feel safe and somewhat protected, but believe me, I love a good box, and so does my cat. But that's beside the point. I love a good box. And an interesting thing occurs sometimes when we try to break out of a box or box thinking around a particular thing. We often end up creating a different looking box and say, look, we are out of the old box, while having our foot firmly planted in the new one that we have created. And so I think this is human nature, and it has definitely been something that we here at Soul Evolution Collaborative have talked a lot about lately. We began this whole journey with a desire to step into the expansiveness of what is possible. And that has not changed, but instead we are seeing it with different eyes. As we have navigated our way out of one box, we've kind of sort of found ourselves in a new box. And so this kind of cued a light bulb moment for us. We are realizing that stepping into possibility, 1, is challenging, 2 is scary, and 3, see 1 and 2. But seriously, this isn't this how life is, especially when we are doing something we have never done before. Whether it's starting a new ministry or a business or a relationship, the list is endless. But the call for us, not only at SEC, but I think the collective us, is to continually focus our attention and intention back to who we are, what we stand for, and how we want to show up in the world, with a clear vision, which is kind of how this whole party of SEC got started. We can continue to step out in ways that we are called to, show up in ways that speak to our passion of not only personal transformation, but communal evolution, creating those spaces for authenticity, connection, and belonging. And we are becoming more and more aware that to do all this requires a silent bravery, one that is not held back by what has been, but one that leans into what can be. So be prepared, folks, for Soul Evolution Collaborative to continue to step out in ways that support this vision. Some ways may look familiar, some may be totally different, and we may even toss a little of the unexpected in there. So goodbye, box, and hello, possibilities. We talk about the box, and that language is, it can be a little arbitrary, but I think the language itself is this idea of anything that constrains us into fear of stepping out into something different, and so I think a box obviously kind of symbolizes that the best, kind of this in case sort of thing. And it's interesting, I think we live like a lot of our lives not realizing that that's what we're doing a little bit.
And we joke often about our cats, but like it literally makes me think about, you get a nice new box and
we're in it to win it.
You look away for a second from, I'm talking like physical cardboard box, right?
Yeah.
Like you look away for a second, you look back, and the cat is sitting in the box because it's safe, right? Like they're literally, I feel safe in this box.
Drawn to that,
it's this wall. And I think it's just like this naturally occurring, like in defining what we are and what we're doing, we are creating this outer perimeter of what it is that we think and say we are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it might be one of those things, like I think you kind of alluded to earlier. It's like you do step out of one box and it feels like you're in this like free form space. At least it has for me, right? We
Right.
like we leapt out of that box to find
A new box.
we were in a bigger box. Like, wait, what? But at first there was like this like free falling, like formless feeling around it, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh,
Well,
this is a slightly larger version of the box we were just in.
Well, and I think if you look at it, I think that the goal or our kind of like journey is, when we have attachments to outcomes or way things look or way things are going to show up or the experiences that we're going to have, it does kind of focus our attention on those things. And so then you can kind of miss everything that's kind of, it's like, watching a TV show and you're missing everything that's going on around you because you're focused on that. And I think this applies not only like spiritual communities, but I think as individuals, because individuals make up the community. So it's like seeing these shifts on this kind of micro level really supports the shifts on the macro level, is this understanding that if we are kind of constantly or continually having our awareness upon our attachments in certain areas to outcomes and our attachments or our illusion of control in certain areas, and began to release a little bit of that and began to kind of stretch a little bit and be open to things and experiences and ideas and ways of doing things and ways of seeing things as they come. And maybe they're different than what we're used to, but just kind of that, if we approach like life in general, spiritual community in general, with curiosity of like, oh yeah, this is great, but I wonder what we could do, what else we could do, or this program is great, or this way of doing things is wonderful, and these people are supportive, and everyone's enjoying this, and wow, that makes me wonder kind of what is next. And so I think if we honestly shift our energy into this state of curiosity, into this constant state of curiosity, then this conversation of the box would be just irrelevant. I mean, I really do think curiosity just flattens the box.
I love that this is applicable to like each of us as individuals in our own lives, and also to Soul Evolution Collaborative as a community and our journey. And it's really interesting to look at it like the box in and of itself is not a good or a bad thing. It just kind of is. It's I don't know, maybe it's part of this natural human process of defining things, whatever. I think what we found is like the box only really matters when the box starts to get cramped.
Yeah. When there's too much stuff in the box.
Yeah, when there's right. When the box starts overflowing and like the corners are like pulling apart and we're all like, but this is the box. This is the way we've always done it, and why isn't it working? And it's like, well, because there's not enough space in the box anymore. Too many people are trying to do the thing or whatever, right? Like, and I think that's the point where if we haven't been curious before, if we haven't developed a practice of being curious, that's when it matters, because we can become so attached to the way it's been done. And I think to kind of step into some specifics here a little bit of what we're really talking about, like that Sunday morning spiritual community pre-pandemic, basically, like that was the way. And the box started getting really crowded for everybody, for the people attending, for the people leading, for the people creating Sunday services. Like, well, but this is what we are. This is the way we do this. This is the way we've always done this. And it started working less and less effectively in a lot of places. So I think what happened was the box forced some communities to learn how to do Sunday morning really well, with a reason for doing, so like, oh, it reinvigorated, like, oh yeah, this is why we do Sunday morning. Let's do it really well. Let's do it this way. Let's do it with this intention. And then I think other communities like ours, it inspired us to be like, oh, well, yeah, this is how it's always been done or whatever. But what else? Like, what else is possible? What else can we do? What else does this look like? And so in attempting to leap out of the box, we're like, we're going to throw all of that behind us. And right. And yet we do bring, I mean, I think, our recent lookings back, or whatever we'd call it, has shown us, like, I think we brought more of the box with us than we thought. And so even the idea of having like a weekly service of sorts that we're trying to like figure out and sort through, and like, what does this look like? And well, like we kind of, our minds kind of go back to the things that we've known, the things that we've done. So it's like, all right, well, how does it not look like that? But then, well, just because it doesn't look like that doesn't mean it doesn't have the same feel. And
the beauty of that is like every community has its place and its beauty and how it shows up and how it presents. And one community shows up this way and does this, and we do this over here, and it's not like better than, or this is better than that, but it's like, oh, it's like it's kind of this macrocosm of spiritual community when we're talking about authenticity. When Soul Evolution Collaborative shows up as what it is meant to, and its truest self and its truest vision, it shows up in the world in this way, in its authentic self. And then this community over here, and its vision and its people shows up authentically in the world as its authentic self. It's like this. It's interesting, this kind of out of the box thinking. It's not necessarily for me, like not, doing it the way it always been done, but it's like doing what you're supposed to do in the world with intention and with vision. And so when we all begin to do that, not only individually, but also, we're talking in this instance about spiritual communities, when we all begin to do that, oh my goodness, it becomes this like collective force, for lack of a better word, for good. And that every part is valuable. For me, it seems like an invitation for other people to show up authentically. And I think that's what we're learning here. Like when you said, we have brought parts of the things that we have known in the past, and that's super comfortable. And, I know that. And I know, when you do that, you get this, A plus B equals C. But, the adventure is to see if A times B divided by C equal, something different, And so I think that is, then we can begin to shift our focus on what is possible. We've even looked recently of like, hey, we really want to show up in this way as a community. And so what steps do we need to do? What things do we need to shift? What things do we need to let go of? What things do we need to embrace in order to show up that way? And yes, that means a little changing here and there, a little dab here, a little turning here. And,
well, isn't that just the curiosity we were kind of talking about a little earlier?
Sure.
Like, in remaining curious, I mean, it certainly requires us to kind of put aside some of our, I don't know,
attachments,
ego, some of our judgments, some of our attachments, some of our, I mean, everybody's got some insecurities, right? So like, I think it's that idea of remaining curious that kind of allows us to recognize when we have insecurities, recognize when we have judgments, recognize when we have attachments, recognize when we put in time and energy into a thing that didn't work, whatever. And then continuing to be curious about it and see like, all right, well, what is looking to happen? What are people even wanting? What is looking to be created through us? Or do people want Sunday? Do people want a Thursday? Do people want a Tuesday show? What is the next thing about that? And just kind of, I don't know. It almost feels like we jumped out of the first box and the next box was like just a little bit bigger than the first box when we thought it was going to be
ever so slightly.
Right. So now we're like wedged in between the old, we're like,
I don't know if you remember. Well, I'm sure you remember, but we tend to like to plan and things to go a certain way and plan for the plan. Well, just to make sure everything is exactly the way it needs to be before we started, and so there were months of just things have to, okay, before we started, a Soul Evolution Collaborative, like, okay, it has to look this way and this way. And, Lord, we could be like months of how we want it to look. And finally we were like, you know what, let's just start it. And let's just start, truth be told, it started with truth be told, let's just do it. And if it sucks, it sucks. We'll learn something and we'll shift and we'll do something different. And I think, isn't that what this call of curiosity is? This call of, that spiritual community is. It is trial and, I want to say trial and error, but it's not error, but it is trial. And like, oh, no, not so much. And so how often do we let perfection be the enemy of the good?
I don't know if it's the flip side of that or whatever, but it's almost the same line of thinking, right? Like for me, planning, I mean, I've always, like you said, like,
I
well,
like
I
a
don't know.
good
I kind of grew up with this, like, you can't change your plan if you don't have one.
plan. There you go.
Right. Like, so like the plan is not to like, we got to have a plan, but like recognizing that like stuff's going to come up and you're going to need to change your plan, but you can't change the plan if you don't have a plan. Right.
That's a great t-shirt idea.
Hmm.
Can't change your plan if you don't have one.
Yeah. Within the box, there was this, I mean, I think there were both ends of the spectrum of like so much planning that it kept things from happening.
Mhm.
And then the other end of it, which I experienced regularly, was no plan whatsoever, and we're just
We'll
gonna,
see what happens.
yeah. And the interesting thing is, I think that's actually from a very similar mentality, right? It's like
Mhm.
the same mentality, just facing two different perspectives. We're gonna try and control what happens, and so let's control everything so that we have control. Or if we don't try and control anything, then I have the sense of control that I know we're planning, like the plan is everything's going to get screwed up. So who cares? Like, right? Like it's a very, yeah. And so I think this kind of time of transition, like we talked last week about the transitional period of community that we're kind of in. I think that transition time is bigger than just the idea of community, but I
Mhm.
think part of the transition we're in now is finding like that middle ground. And I think this is specific for us as leaders and as a community. I
Mhm.
think it's also true probably out beyond that. But in our experience, I think we're finding this like transitional time of like letting the pendulum kind of like slow down and stop in the middle. Like, where's the middle at,
Yeah.
of thinking through the plan enough so that when it does need to change, we know what the plan was so we can make
Mhm.
shifts to it. Right. And maybe that is part of like trying to kind of figure out some of those variables. If all the variables are everywhere and everything's just scattering and bouncing and whatever, it's like, well, I don't know, grab what you can and let's see. But if there was a plan of all right, we have this variable, this variable, this variable, we can kind of let it settle and figure out where it lies.
That settling, I mean, communities are made from people. And so allowing people to be people, allowing
Yeah.
people to show up as they are, empowering people to be active in their communities in whatever way that looks like for them. And then, sometimes, even I think something that we've experienced is redefining what it means to be active and involved. It's like every aspect of spiritual community. And, that's kind of what we're talking about, with respect to our own spiritual community, but like every aspect is really in this kind of flexible mode. Every
Yeah.
aspect of like, you know, when we're in curiosity, then everything about community can change, and that's super exciting. We're living in an exciting time for spiritual movements, social justice movements, spiritual communities that organizations that are doing the work in the world to really actualize those principles that we talk about. And so it's a really exciting time for Soul Evolution Collaborative to begin to evolve in those ways too, and to show up in the world
Yeah.
in different ways than maybe we even thought at the beginning. To stick with that curiosity mindset, even though sometimes we want to like stick it in a box, and just
Yeah.
continue to stick with that curiosity. When we do that, it's going to guide us into things we never thought possible. The box. We have learned so much so far here at Soul Evolution Collaborative about the box and about how this power of curiosity can really create this expansiveness and this excitement to see what is in store for tomorrow. And so we are so grateful for the journey. We're so grateful for all of you who have been with us along the way and who will continue to be with us. The future is just limitless possibilities. And so if you would like to play along with us to explore this topic and all the other topics that we talk about, uh, uh, you go to our website at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. You can check out all the events, all the offerings we have. We have obviously our Truth Be Told, which you are watching on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. We have our gathering, which is at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. If you'd like to sign up for that, you can check it out on our website. We have our Second Sunday Experience now, that's 7 p.m. on Sundays. And there's lots of other things going on. Socially engaged conversations the first Friday of every month. There's just so many things going on right now. And there's going to be more and more things and more opportunities to participate in all different ways in the future. So if we don't see you at any of those things, we will see you back here next week. And so thank you for tuning into this episode of Truth Be Told.